You are all here this morning for what we believe to be will be an important and informative hearing. We welcome all of you who are here in the audience. The rules are pretty clear here. We're glad to have you here. There'll be no protesting in here other than and we'll be subject to the usual rules and met with zero tolerance, arrest and banning from the committee. There are people suffering from this right now who made that mistake early on, but haven't been back since. And we, like I said, enjoy having everybody here. But this is business in the United States that needs to be conducted uninterrupted. So today, what we bring to you, the distinguished ranking member and I have worked hard to identify areas that really need to be probed. And today we're going to probe arguably one of the most difficult and frustrating places on the planet, and that is Africa, and specifically Eastern Africa. All of us here know that the United States has a clear national security and economic interest in the East and East Africa and the Horn of Africa region. The region borders key maritime trade routes through the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden, and hosts a significant U.S. military presence at our base in Djibouti. The U.S. also conducts robust counterterrorism operations, largely focused on Somalia, in partnership with Kenya and others in the region. But in recent years, violent conflicts in Ethiopia, Sudan, and Somalia have destabilized the region. These conflicts provide fertile ground for violent extremist groups like Al-Shabaab, ISIS, and the Houthis. They enable malign actors like China, Iran, and Russia, and devastate local populations and U.S. national security alike. Sudan in particular is a crisis too few Americans recognize as the world's deadliest ongoing conflict. The Sudanese people are enduring atrocities on a staggering scale. Genocide in Darfur, mass displacement, and famine across multiple regions. Sudan is a hotbed of instability and a direct threat to U.S. national security interests. There are no good options or easy outcomes, but that only heightens the need for U.S. attention and leadership. Over the last 4 years, the U.S. reactions to this crisis and many others on the continent were fragmented, reactive, and ineffective. President Trump and this administration have already acted to better protect U.S. national security in the region. In President Trump's first term, his administration engaged in talks with Kenya over a potential free trade agreement, a first for sub-Saharan Africa. And now Secretary Rubio and other senior officials have ramped up engagement and confronted threats from Al-Shabaab and the Islamic State head-on. But these efforts cannot be siloed. They must be part of a broad strategic effort to protect American interests in Africa while also protecting the U.S. taxpayer's pocketbook. That means being clear-eyed about our potential and existing partners in the region. In many cases, these governments are not wholly legitimate, which raises the question of whether engagement is worth the cost. Take, for example, South Sudan. Its government exists based on a peace agreement that its signatories routinely violate. The U.S. played a central role in the country's creation, a legacy that has carried a financial cost well above $10 billion in assistance since independence in 2011. Yet the returns on this investment in terms of securing sustainable peace and a functional state are marginal at best and arguably diminishing. Additionally, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Uganda each face serious domestic challenges that severely limit what U.S. investment can do. This fact, unfortunately, demands our restraint. Many African nations maintain troubling ties with China, including key national security partners. Just last month, President Ruto declared that Kenya, a major non-NATO ally, and China are co-architects of a new world order. That's not just alignment to China, it's allegiance. I submit for the record the text of that speech. I'm going to enter it in the record at the conclusion of the hearing that describes this. Relying on leaders who embrace Beijing so openly is an error. It's time to reassess our relationship with Kenya and others who forge tight bonds with China. And it isn't just an embracement of China, but also the, quote, new world order, end quote. Still, there are countries where meaningful engagement is possible, but only with sober judgment and clear-eyed realism. We must stop building U.S. policy in Africa around individual leaders and instead focus on strengthening institutions, expanding private sector ties, and empowering the region's young and dynamic populations. We hold this hearing at a moment of profound urgency, but also real opportunity. By tailoring our strategy and spending to align with the potential of our partners in the region, we can build stronger partnerships that serve both Africa and U.S. national interests, ultimately making America safer, stronger, and more prosperous. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today. With that, I turn to our distinguished ranking member, Senator Sheehy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Like you, I'm delighted that we are able to hold this hearing today. I want to welcome our witnesses, and I think there's a lot of agreement on both sides of the aisle about the importance of Africa to the United States and the need to engage more there. The United States does have a critical role to play on the continent. Just last month, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo signed a declaration of principles on ending a brutal 30-year war. It's not quite ended yet. However, it's a positive step, and it's the result of deliberate diplomatic work that's been carried out over many years on a bipartisan basis. Unfortunately, this administration's cuts to foreign aid programs have been very damaging when we look at what we need to do on the continent of Africa. While reports from the State Department indicate that life-saving aid continues to flow, what my staff that traveled to Africa 3 weeks ago saw on the ground was very different. And we have some pictures that they took from that trip. This is a clinic that was for an HIV/AIDS prevention site for girls in South Africa. Sadly, as you can see, it's been closed because all of the prevention activities around HIV/AIDS on the continent have been shut down. This is a photo, also in South Africa, of a clinic for vulnerable children, again, around addressing HIV/AIDS. It has also been shut down as the result of the stop in foreign assistance. This final picture is of a hospital in Angola where USAID used to provide ready-to-use therapeutic foods to address starvation and famine. And while there are still cans, those are formula, those are not the ready-to-use therapeutic foods. They're totally out of those. So I hope our witnesses today will talk about the impact that cuts to those life-saving aid programs have on the security not just of the people of Africa, but of the United States, because as we know, what happens there doesn't stay in Africa. We see the impact here in the United States. Rationing HIV drugs gives the virus a chance to mutate into drug-resistant strains. And I also hope you will talk about the competition for influence in Africa between the United States and China. The chairman mentioned that in his remarks. I think it's something that we're seeing. And this is a map that was done in 2023 that shows the influence of China in Africa. I wish we had the one that we had in the Armed Services Committee several years ago that compares China's impact in Africa to the United States, because they are eating our lunch there. And you can see the red is where the PRC has really put a focus on the countries in Africa. You can see the Chinese base in Djibouti. It shows the 2,000 military troops that are deployed in Africa by the Chinese, and 1,775 peacekeepers that support 4 UN peacekeeping operations, again, Chinese. So it is significant that we are not competing either militarily or diplomatically in Africa, and now on the foreign assistance front.